Hey there, and welcome to the Golden Circle for the month of February 2020. I was nearly going to say January there, but we're well into February. We're well into the year, and we're past that new year phase. So I really do hope that now we're into the third month of this service, which I began back in December, that you're really starting to connect and to tune into the way the planets are helping to empower you to lead a divinely inspired life. So bringing us to the Astrology of February. So I'm really looking forward to this month. As you look at your calendars, and I'll share the screen with you in a moment so you can view that, we do have a quieter month, astrologically speaking, particularly in the first half of this month, where we don't have very many planetary aspects happening at all. However, what we do have is quite impactful from the perspective that when planets are shifting signs, they shift tone, they shift energy. It's almost like there's a signature change, or a key change, musically speaking. And so in the first, pretty much in the first week of February, I'm so used to saying January still, but in the first week of February, we not only have Pisces move signs, we also have Venus, and then in the second week, or sort of second, third week with the way the month works, we also have Mars change signs. So we've got three of the more inner or personal planets shifting signs in a very sort of short succession. So, one of the ways I would sort of encapsulate the month of February is almost like a Nike month. Just do it. We're now out of the eclipse portal that kind of plagued the whole sort of December and a big chunk of January. So we did have that, the new moon in Aquarius on the 24th in the Northern Hemisphere, and here on the 25th of January here in Australia. And I don't know if you felt that personally, but I certainly did. And that was a real shift in energy. It was almost like that eclipse portal closed. We could get back into the regular rhythms of the lunations and the sky's movement, because that's one thing that eclipses do bring, and that is that disruption to the regular patterns. That happening in the height of holiday season, it's almost like we're in this like in-between worlds where time and space feels different. So now you might sort of start feeling that you're more back on the regular pace, you're more back on the regular rhythms, and life is getting some type of new normal started back up again. So one of the key factors with the month of February, I've got to get used to saying January. I feel like I've been saying it so long. It's a very busy time when you're an astrologer in January. But in February, one of the key signatures of this month is Mercury's ingress into Pisces. So not only is that the ingress into Pisces, it's also the beginning of an extended tour of that sign, because on the 16th of January in the north and the 17th here in Australia, that is when Mercury in Pisces begins its first retrograde phase of 2020. So this will have reverberations of the Mercury retrograde in Pisces of 2019 as well. How to describe this retrograde? This is a time where Mercury is on paper pretty much as bad as it gets. It's in the sign of its fall. So it's exalted in Virgo. It's in its fall in the sign of Pisces. It goes retrograde. The station happens within range of Neptune, so about 5 degrees. So it's not super tight as last year's one was, but it's still pretty tight. So it's got that Neptunian, dazed and confused type of element too. And of course, later in the month, Mercury will then be in a position of combustion with the sun. So in a nutshell, how is that going to feel when it comes to your mercurial things? List making, logistics, getting on speed with things or things squared away. Try and attend to things as much as you can, as the month begins. Write those lists, make those calls, send those emails, for example. Um, and, you know, if you can, avoid certain things, you know, and if you can't, and I'm certainly one that doesn't really try and avoid anything, but just understand that things are going to take longer, and things are going to perhaps have a little bit more of a frustrating or a confused element to it. For example, the previous Mercury retrograde, which was in Scorpio, so Mercury stationed in Scorpio just around Halloween, that was when I enlisted a new web developer, just as Mercury was pretty much at the station. And here we are. I still don't have my new website. It's taking way longer than it should, and the communication is just not there. And when I push the issue, it's different, and the project's, you know, hopefully is turning out really well. But again, it's just that Mercury retrograde stuff. It's not terminal. It's not like a massive issue. But as I said in one of my emails that I sent out, you know, I tried to push back on the cosmos, and it's pushed back on me. So, and that's just an example of how this astro weather stuff works. We're still going to do what we always want to do. We are human and we have our wants, needs, and desires. But sometimes forces do work against us, and it doesn't necessarily mean we have to go off track with things that we want, but it's understanding perhaps the weather conditions in which different things are initiated or created around are going to take on a certain tonal flavor, which may be in our favor and may also not be. So when it comes to this Mercury retrograde phase that begins on the 16th/17th, as we get into that phase, use the first sort of week or 2 weeks of February, to start really, you know, freeing up time. Try and do the things that you know might take a little bit longer before Mercury really slows down, where possible. Give yourself more time for projects that, you know, might take X amount of time. Allow Y amount of time for them. So things will take a little bit longer. Communication, cross wires, all of that sort of stuff is probably going to plague the month. But, you know, as I said, it's not terminal. It's just frustrating. So if you're traveling, allow extra time. If you're anticipating payments or emails or certain things, just allow that time. It is a Pisces retrograde, so it could potentially really infuse creative outlets or creative pursuits. You might decide to journal more, connect to music more, Netflix more, all of those sorts of things as well. So just be aware that Mercury is going to spend an extended period of time in the part of your chart that is ruled by Pisces. So this is where you can perhaps put a little bit more time, mental energy and effort and creativity into that part of your world. Venus also changes signs very early in February. So that is on the 7th, on the 8th here in Australia. And so Venus has just left the beautiful waters of Pisces and into Aries. Now, February is also going to be a month where, with Venus there, it's demanding what you want. This isn't about Venus who wants to accommodate, or this isn't Venus that wants to make peace with people. If anything, she's going to thrive on a little bit of conflict in this sign. She's going to go hard up against all those Capricorn planets. So when it comes to the Venus components of our lives, our relationships, the way we get on with other people's, our desires, needs, and wants is very much a part of Venus. And she's going for it. So start practicing with the idea of asking yourself, what do I really want? And that's what I really look forward to Venus in Aries. It's a significant shift in energy. In Pisces, she's exalted. She's one of her best, the best versions of Venus we can get. As she moves into Aries, she loses massive strength. This doesn't mean that Venus in of herself is weak. She's a great planet. She still wants to do things. She still wants to relate in some way. It's just instead she's been working with honey. Now she's realizing, okay, now I need to work with vinegar. This is moving in from a mutable, flowy water sign into a cardinal fire sign. This is Venus who's initiating. This is Venus who wants to act. This is Venus who wants to make things happen quickly. So she might have to work a little bit more solo or a little bit more alone in order to get things done. Then we have a beautiful full moon in Leo. Of course, I'm going to talk about that more in the weekly videos upcoming. But one of the other significant shifts of this month is the movement of Mars into the sign of Capricorn. So this is going to happen on the 16th of February all over. And this is the same day where Mercury is at the slowdown and looking to retrograde. So Mars in Capricorn, productivity plus. You'll see it in your additional Mars bonus as it goes through Capricorn, how Mars can work for you in your own chart. Mars in Capricorn is exalted. It takes the hot, tempered, fiery, get it done now, impulsive energy of Mars, and it gets cooled off a little bit in Capricorn. So we've got the energizing influence of Mars, and we've got the slowed, tempered, strategic element there of Capricorn. So there's the hot dryness of Mars, the cold dryness of Capricorn there. So what that can help us do is Mars is aligning our daily actions, our daily plans, and our daily goals into the long-term perspective. So it's about playing the long game. It's about kind of like a little bit like about discipline, but it's aligning yourself with the habits that will set you up for longer term success. So as I look at the broad picture of 2020, February is very much a get it done month. So we've got Mars is going to go through and connect with all of the other planets in Capricorn. So this might help cut ties with certain things that have been plaguing you for the last couple of years with Saturn and the South Node there. This might help, tidy up loose ends or take action around things that you've been burying your head in the sand around. So it's going to add a little bit of action and movement and progress into things that have been really active in your Capricorn house. Mars in Capricorn is about getting things done. It's uber productive. This might mean, with the combination of Mercury in Pisces, we might just have to sometimes put aside how we feel and just get the mundane done, get the tasks done, get the to-do list done. Sometimes being in flow and the to-do list are not always aligned, but it might just be carving time to do the thing so you can then allow time to do the thing that you want to do with the Mercury in Pisces piece. So Mars in Capricorn can really help us decide what our priority is, decide what's important to us, and make that our habit. If your priority is to spend more time in the gym, then make that your priority and make that your new habit. If your priority is to stop wasting time on social media, then do the thing you need to do. If your priority is, okay, I'm going to really figure out my money this month, I'm going to make a budget, I'm going to stick to it, or a spending plan, whatever your own personal psychology around money is, decide and then do. And that's what you're really supported in this month with these planets changing signs. Yes, there's a bit of a dazed and confused element to Mercury going retrograde in Pisces, but then there's Venus in Aries and Mars in Capricorn. So the cardinal elements are really emphasized. And cardinal is about getting started. It's not so much about, finishing the race. It's not so much about knowing where you're going to end up, but it's just getting started and figuring it out along the way. And that's where the Mercury retrograde piece can perhaps inspire you or create a new level of ideas, or give yourself a little bit of time and space. Have that drink, allow that mind to connect to the heart, to connect to the soul. What does it mean to be in flow? What do I want to create in my life? What do I want 2020 to look like? Then take those creative, inspired ideas and then initiate the action to make them happen. So overall, February is, 2020 is here and now. We're in it. We're in the second month already. We are, or the downhill. It just happens so quickly. And so we've got Mars going into Capricorn for 6 weeks, then it will go into Aquarius. So we've got a good 3 months of a heavy Mars Saturn influence, you know, being ruled by a Saturn sign. So there's a lot to do in the next 6 weeks in particular, in the next 3 months as a larger bracket. So my advice is, if there's something you've been dragging your heels around, if there's something you set your mind, this is how I want my 2020 to look like, do it in February. Get started. Don't let the Mercury retrograde hold you back. Let that just be its thing. It might mean you have to redo some things down the track. It might mean that you need to take that rest to create the inspired visions, or to create the mood or the feeling or the vibration. You need to do the thing, but don't let that be enough to stop you. Take massive action to whatever it is that you're wanting to get done this month or to get done in 2020. There is cosmic support on side. So I really look forward to diving in deeper with each of the weeks of the month of February. Got a slightly longer February this month with 29 days. So that's exciting. And I look forward to connecting and telling you all about the astrology week to week in the upcoming videos.